The door slammed so hard the frame shook. My husband, Dylan, stood there with anger burning in his eyes. "You're nothing without me," he shouted. "Disappear into thin air. Don't ever show your face again, lazy woman." I didn't argue. There was nothing left to say. The house we shared had become a cage, and I was too tired to keep defending my worth. So I packed a small bag, took one last look at the life I had built around his moods, and walked out. No tears. Just silence. Outside, the rain fell heavy, soaking through my coat. I didn't know where I was going, just away. I had once dreamed of becoming a designer. I sketched dresses in secret, filling notebooks while Dylan mocked me. "You'll never be good enough," he'd say. Now, his voice echoed behind me like a curse. At the bus stop, I glanced at my reflection in the glass, pale, broken, but alive. "I'll start over," I whispered. The bus pulled up, brakes screeching. I climbed aboard, clutching my bag. The driver looked at me in the mirror. "Rough night." I nodded once. He started the engine, and as the city lights faded, I had no idea that the next stop would change everything. The bus dropped me off downtown near the old train station. I didn't have a plan, just a little savings and too much fear. A flashing "rooms for rent" sign caught my eye. The building looked tired like me. The landlord, a short woman named Mrs. Harper, handed me a key. "No loud noise, no parties. Pay weekly." "Thank you," I said, and meant it. The room was small, with a single bed and a window that barely opened. But it was mine. For the first time in years, I felt free enough to breathe. That night, I opened my old sketchbook. The pencil trembled in my hand. I began to draw, lines forming shapes, shapes turning into dresses. By midnight, the floor was littered with paper. I fell asleep with a pencil in my hand and hope flickering in my chest. The next morning, I walked into a thrift shop looking for fabric. The owner, a cheerful man named Marco, watched me dig through scraps. "You a designer?" he asked. "Trying to be," I said. He smiled. "Then you need better fabric. Come tomorrow, I'll show you something special." I didn't know it then, but Marco's something special would be the thread that stitched my new life together. Marco led me to the back of his shop the next day. He opened a large wooden chest and pulled out rolls of beautiful fabric, silk, velvet, lace. "These are leftovers from high-end designers," he said proudly. "I save them for people who have a spark. You've got that look." My heart raced. "I can't afford." He waved a hand. "Pay later. Just show me what you can do." I worked for days, cutting and sewing late into the night in my tiny room. The sound of the sewing machine became my heartbeat. When I finished my first dress, a deep green gown, I showed it to Marco. He stared for a long moment, then whistled. "That's talent. You should show this to someone." "Who?" I asked. He grinned. "I know a photographer who owes me a favor. We'll take pictures. You'll start small online." 2 weeks later, my designs were on social media. At first, only a few people liked them. But then, one post went viral. Comments flooded in, praise, requests, invitations. Marco laughed when he saw my stunned face. "Told you, kid. You've got magic hands." I smiled, trembling. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Then my phone buzzed, and my heart froze when I saw the sender's name. It was Dylan. I stared at the message. "You still alive? I saw your name online. Must be a joke." My hands shook. 2 years of silence, and now he appeared out of nowhere. I wanted to delete it, but curiosity stopped me. I typed back, "I'm doing fine." He replied almost instantly. "Fine? You can't survive without me. You're probably pretending." Anger bubbled inside me. But instead of replying, I turned off my phone and went back to sewing. Marco noticed my shaking hands. "You okay?" "Old ghosts," I muttered. He nodded like he understood. "Don't let ghosts sew your future." His words stuck with me. Within months, I had my own small collection. 5 dresses that felt like dreams stitched into reality. A local boutique offered to showcase them. At the event, cameras flashed, and models walked wearing my designs. People clapped. My knees almost gave out from joy. Then, from the corner of the room, I saw a familiar face. Dylan. He looked stunned, his mouth slightly open. He didn't clap. He didn't move. Just stood there, staring at the woman he once called lazy. And I realized, this was only the beginning. He approached me after the show. So, this is what you've been doing? He asked, voice dripping with disbelief. I smiled politely. Nice to see you, Dylan. You couldn't have done this alone, he said. Who's helping you? No one. Just me. He laughed, bitter and sharp. You think designing a few dresses makes you special? You'll crash soon. Before I could reply, Marco joined us. You must be the husband who didn't believe in her, he said cheerfully. Dylan's face darkened. Who are you? The friend who did. Dylan glared, muttered something under his breath, and stormed out. I exhaled slowly, my heart pounding. I guess he's still the same. Marco placed a hand on my shoulder. Then you have to keep changing. He's part of your past, not your path. That night, I sat by my window and watched the city lights shimmer. I wasn't the woman he left behind. I was someone new, someone stronger. But deep down, I knew Dylan wouldn't disappear easily. And I was right, because the next morning, I opened my email and saw a message that could destroy everything I'd built. The email came from the boutique manager. We've received a complaint claiming your designs were copied from another brand. Until the matter is settled, we must remove your collection. My heart dropped. I reread it 3 times, shaking. Someone was accusing me of stealing my own work. I rushed to the boutique, but the manager only shook her head. I'm sorry, Emma, but it's serious. They say they have proof. I left in a daze. Proof? I had drawings, sketches, even fabric receipts. At home, I opened my portfolio and froze. Half of my design files were missing. Deleted. I sat on the floor, fighting tears. Who could have done this? Then I remembered the night before the show. Dylan had been at my computer, checking emails. My pulse raced. He couldn't have, could he? I called Marco, my voice trembling. Someone's trying to ruin me. Then we fight back, he said. I'll call my cousin. She's a lawyer. While he made calls, I searched online. The accusation came from a new brand, DLN Apparel. My blood turned to ice. Those initials. Dylan Lee Nelson. It was him. And the game had just begun. Marco's cousin, Clara, met me at the cafe the next morning. She wore glasses and carried a sharp confidence that made me hopeful. Show me everything, she said. I handed her my sketches, receipts, and time-stamped files. She scanned them quickly. This helps. If he copied you, we'll prove it. I swallowed hard. He's my ex-husband. Her eyebrows rose. Then this isn't just business. It's personal. Days passed in a blur of emails and stress. Dylan's company released a full line identical to mine, claiming I'd stolen his work. The online comments turned cruel. Fake designer, one read. Copycat, another. I shut my laptop and cried into my hands. Marco came over with takeout. Hey, let them talk. Truth wins in the end. I can't afford to fight him, I said. He knows that. Marco smiled sadly. Then we'll make your art louder than his lies. We started filming short clips, me sewing, sketching, creating. I posted them online. People watched, shared, and slowly, the tide began to turn. But Dylan wasn't finished. That night, a thick envelope slid under my door. Inside was a court summons. He was suing me for intellectual theft. I stared at it, heart hammering. He was taking me to war. Courtrooms smell like paper and nerves. I sat beside Clara, my palms slick with sweat. Across the aisle, Dylan smirked in a tailored suit. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. Clara rose. Your Honor, we can prove my client designed her work months before Mr. Nelson's alleged launch. Dylan's lawyer laughed softly. That's what they all say. My sketches and timestamps were displayed on a screen. My name, dates, and notes filled the room. Dylan's expression flickered, just for a second. But he wasn't done. He stood and said, Your Honor, she used my equipment and resources while we were married. By law, That makes her designs ours. Gasps echoed. Clara whispered, he's twisting it. Don't panic. I bit my lip as the judge frowned. We'll review ownership. Court adjourned until next week. Outside, Dylan followed me. Still think you can win without me? He sneered. I already have, I said, though my voice shook. He leaned closer. You'll crawl back. You always do. Then he walked away, confident. But as he disappeared into the crowd, Clara turned to me and whispered, we just got a message from an anonymous source. They claim they have proof Dylan forged documents. My breath caught. Proof. She nodded. Meet them tonight. The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. A hooded figure sat in the corner, sipping coffee. You're Emma Reed? The voice asked softly.
Yes.
Who are you? Someone who used to work for Dylan. The person slid a flash drive across the table. He paid us to alter your design files, change dates, names. But I kept the originals. My eyes widened. Why are you helping me? Because he did to me what he's doing to you. I lost my job for speaking up. I clutched the flash drive. Thank you. They stood. Use it before he deletes everything. Then they left. When I got home, Marco was waiting. We plugged in the drive. Dozens of files appeared, emails, fake invoices, even screenshots of Dylan giving instructions. Clara gasped. This is gold. He's finished. We backed everything up twice. But just as we were about to celebrate, the lights flickered and went out. A knock echoed at the door. Marco froze. Did you tell anyone you were meeting tonight? I shook my head. Another knock, louder this time. Then a voice through the door, low and cold. Open up, Emma. We need to talk. My stomach turned. It was Dylan. I grabbed the flash drive and hid it under a stack of fabric. Marco whispered, don't let him in. But Dylan kept pounding. I know you're in there. You think you can ruin me. I shouted through the door. Go away or I'll call the police. He laughed darkly. You wouldn't dare. I dialed 911 with shaking hands. There's a man at my door, my ex-husband. He's threatening me. The operator promised help was on the way. Dylan kept yelling, his words turning into slurred insults. You'll regret crossing me. Sirens approached. He backed away, muttering something I couldn't hear. When the officers arrived, he was gone. I filed a report, but fear lingered long after they left. Marco locked the windows. He's desperate now, he said. People like him lash out when they're losing. I nodded, hugging my arms. He's not just losing. He's unraveling. Clara arrived minutes later. We'll present this flash drive in court tomorrow. If it's real, it's over. I looked at the glowing screen where Dylan's forged documents filled the folder. For the first time in months, I felt the weight shift in my favor. But I didn't know, someone else was already watching from the shadows outside my window. And they weren't on my side. Sleep refused to come that night. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about everything I had endured and how close I was to finally being free from Dylan's shadow. My chest felt heavy, not from fear, but from all the years I had swallowed my pain. By morning, I made coffee and opened my laptop. The campaign email from Times Square's management was waiting for approval. My design, my face, was about to go live. My hands trembled as I clicked approve. Marco came by later, excited.
This is it, Maya.
You're about to make history. I smiled faintly. Or at least make a few people choke on their pride. That night, as I walked through the city, I saw the empty billboard where my image would appear in 2 days. I could almost hear Dylan's laughter from that night he threw me out, echoing faintly in my mind. I whispered to the wind, let's see who's nothing now. But as I turned to leave, I caught sight of a tall figure watching me from across the street. My heart skipped a beat. He stepped under the streetlight and my breath caught. It was Dylan. For a second, my feet froze. I thought I was imagining things. But it was him, same face, same piercing stare. Only this time, he looked uncertain, almost desperate. He started to walk toward me, calling my name softly. Maya. I turned and walked away fast, ignoring the sharp ache in my chest. He didn't deserve even a glance from me. Wait, he shouted, But I didn't stop. The crowd swallowed me, and by the time I reached my building, I was trembling. Why was he here? How did he find me? Marco noticed my panic when I told him. He probably saw your name somewhere. Your brand's growing. I shook my head.
No.
He was too calm. He knew. The next day, I got a message from an unknown number. We should talk. I made mistakes. I stared at it for a long time. My heart felt heavy, but I deleted the message. He made his choices.
Now he could live with them.
Still, as I closed my laptop, the fear lingered. Because the billboard went live in less than 24 hours. And I knew he would see it. Morning arrived with restless energy. The city buzzed, and my heart raced with it. Today was the day. Marco and I headed to Times Square early. The team from the agency was there, cameras ready, waiting for the billboard to light up. When it did, the crowd gasped. My face appeared, confident, strong, unbroken. Behind it, the words glowed bright. Rise from the ashes. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just a picture, it was proof that I had survived. Reporters started asking questions, snapping photos. People clapped, some even cheered. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw him. Dylan, frozen near a taxi, suitcase in hand, staring up at the billboard like it was a ghost. His lips moved soundlessly. When his eyes found me in the crowd, he went pale. He dropped the suitcase. Papers spilled everywhere. He stumbled forward a step, whispering, "Tell me I'm dreaming." I didn't move. I didn't say a word. The cameras caught it all, his disbelief, my silence, and the giant image of me towering above us both. That moment, I knew the tables had turned. But I also knew this wasn't over. The photos from that day went viral within hours. Woman humiliated by ex-husband becomes the face of a global campaign, the headlines read. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Brands wanted to work with me. Interviews poured in, and suddenly, my name was everywhere. But not everyone was celebrating. Late that night, there was a knock on my door. I hesitated, then opened it slowly. Dylan stood there, rain dripping from his hair. Maya, please, just hear me out. I crossed my arms. Why should I? He sighed. I was wrong. About everything. I thought success made me powerful, but losing you showed me what real failure is. His words didn't move me. You didn't lose me, Dylan. You threw me away. He looked down, ashamed. Can I at least explain? I almost said no. But curiosity, a dangerous, lingering emotion, made me nod.
Fine.
5 minutes. He stepped inside, glancing around the apartment that now carried no trace of our past. I didn't mean those things, he started, voice trembling. I met his eyes coldly. You meant every word. Before he could respond, my phone rang. It was a call from the agency, urgent. I stepped aside to answer. Marco's voice was sharp. Maya, don't panic, but the campaign files were hacked. Someone tried to delete the billboard feed. My eyes darted to Dylan. He looked nervous. What's wrong? He asked, stepping closer. Nothing, I said slowly, staring at him. Just business. He hesitated, then said, I didn't do anything. I swear. But doubt crept in. Marco continued over the phone. We traced the login attempt. It came from someone named Dylan Frost. My stomach turned cold. I looked him straight in the eyes. You couldn't stand that I rose without you, could you? Maya, listen to me. I raised my hand to stop him. Get out. He tried again, voice breaking. I came to fix things. You came to destroy them again, I snapped. He stood frozen, guilt written all over his face. Then he turned slowly and walked out into the rain. I stood by the window, shaking with rage and disbelief. If he wanted to play dirty again, he had no idea who I had become. Because this time I wasn't going to break. I was going to fight back. The next morning, I went straight to the agency. Everyone looked tense. Marco waved me into the conference room, where lines of code and security reports filled the screen. It's bad, he said. Someone tried to replace your face with a blank screen. If we hadn't caught it early, the campaign would have crashed. I clenched my fists. Do we have proof it was him? Marco nodded. The login ID matches Dylan's company account. He must still have access to his old firm servers. I leaned back, heart pounding. I wanted to scream, but instead I whispered, "He can't hurt me anymore." Marco put a hand on my shoulder. "Then let's make sure of it." We worked all day, restoring files, tightening security, and sending the evidence to the legal team. But when I finally got home that night, a small envelope was waiting by my door. No address, no name, just my name written in his handwriting. I tore it open with shaking hands. Inside was a photo of the billboard, my face covered in red paint, and a note that read, "If I can't have the spotlight, neither can you." My knees almost gave out. He wasn't done. For the first time in years, fear crawled under my skin. I locked every window and double-checked the doors. But the more I tried to calm down, the angrier I became. I wasn't that weak woman anymore. He couldn't control me with fear. I called Marco. He left a threat at my door. "Call the police," he said firmly. "Don't face him alone." I did. The officers came, took the note and photo, and promised to investigate. Still, sleep never came. I kept replaying his words, "Lazy woman, nothing without me," and realized something. He was terrified. My success had become his punishment. The next morning, I walked into the agency like a storm. "We're not hiding," I told everyone. "We're relaunching the campaign bigger." Marco grinned. "That's my girl." We renamed the movement Project Rise. Every poster, every billboard now carried the story of women who rebuilt their lives from failure. The support online exploded. Messages flooded in from women who had left abusive marriages, toxic jobs, impossible lives. I wasn't just a model on a billboard anymore. I had become a voice. And deep down, I knew Dylan would see that too. Only this time, it would destroy him. A week later, the campaign reached international news. My inbox overflowed with offers, TV shows, interviews, speaking events. Then one morning, Marco rushed in with his phone. "You need to see this." Dylan was on a live news segment, being escorted by police. His company had been caught in a digital sabotage scandal, using hacked campaigns to smear competitors. My stolen file was part of the evidence. I stared at the screen, speechless. His face was pale, defeated, the same man who once slammed the door in my face saying I'd never survive without him. The reporter's voice echoed. "Mr. Frost's actions have led to a permanent ban from his firm and an ongoing investigation." I didn't cheer. I just felt free. That night, I stood on my balcony, watching the lights of a city. My reflection in the glass looked like a stranger I was finally proud to know. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. "You won, Maya. Maybe you were always stronger." "I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back, "Apology accepted. Goodbye forever." When I hit send, I felt lighter. But something deep inside whispered, this wasn't the end yet. A month passed. Life began to feel normal again. I moved into a bigger studio, hired a small team, and even started teaching workshops for young designers. Everything was finally peaceful. Until one rainy afternoon, Marco ran in holding a magazine. "You need to look at this." On the cover was Dylan, smiling. Under the headline, "The Comeback of a Fallen CEO." My stomach turned. The article said he was writing a book about redemption and how failure taught him humility. I almost laughed. He was using his downfall to rebuild his image. But what caught my eye was a quote, "Even the people who hurt you deserve forgiveness." He was using my words from an old interview. Marco frowned. "You want to respond?" I thought for a long time before saying, "No. I'll let my success answer for me." We poured everything into my next collection, a bold new line that celebrated freedom, resilience, and light. On launch night, as I stepped on stage in front of hundreds of people, I spotted a familiar figure standing quietly in the back.
Dylan.
Watching. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. The crowd roared when my final design appeared on screen, an image of a rising phoenix, glowing with color and power. I stood tall, taking in the moment. My heart was steady, my voice clear as I said, To every woman who was ever told she couldn't, this is for you. Applause thundered through the hall. When the lights dimmed, I walked backstage and there he was. Dylan stood near the exit, hands in his pockets, eyes filled with something like regret. That was amazing, he said quietly. I nodded. It was. He looked down. I just wanted to see you one last time. You were right. I did throw you away. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. He sighed. Goodbye, Maya. I watched him walk out into the rain, disappearing into the crowd. As I stood there, Marco came up beside me. You okay? I smiled softly. Better than okay. Outside, the billboard flashed my face again, strong, confident, unshaken. I realized then that his goodbye wasn't an ending. It was proof that I had finally won. But the best part? I had done it without him. The next few days felt surreal. News outlets kept talking about the show, calling it a revolution of resilience. My inbox filled with messages from people who said my story gave them courage to start again. One message stood out. It was from a young woman named Tessa who wrote, "Your story saved me. I walked away from someone who made me feel worthless. Now I'm free." I sat at my desk and cried. All the pain I had carried for years suddenly felt worth something. That night, Marco and I went to celebrate at a small restaurant near Times Square. The billboard outside still glowed with my campaign. People pointed, smiled, took photos. Marco raised his glass. To the woman who turned heartbreak into history. I laughed softly. To the team who believed in her when no one else did. As I looked out the window, the lights reflected across my face. Somewhere out there, Dylan was probably watching the same city, but now it was my city, my story. I finally understood that success wasn't revenge. It was peace. Still, I couldn't shake a strange feeling that something big was about to happen again. Something unexpected. The next morning, my phone rang before sunrise. Marco's voice was urgent. Maya, wake up. You're on the front page of the Times. Half asleep, I blinked at the photo he sent. It was me, standing in front of my billboard, smiling. The headline read, "From broken to boundless. Maya Thompson's rise to fame." I couldn't believe it. The same city where I once hid in shame now celebrated me. By noon, calls from networks and sponsors flooded in. The world suddenly wanted to hear my story. While walking to the studio, I passed a small cafe. A familiar voice stopped me. Maya? I turned. Dylan sat inside, alone, with a half-empty cup of coffee. He looked older, worn out, tired of running. He motioned for me to come in. I hesitated, then stepped closer to the window. Through the glass, he mouthed, "I'm proud of you." For a moment, I saw the man I once loved, the dreamer before the bitterness took over. But I didn't go inside. I just smiled sadly and walked away. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't need words. It just needs distance. A few weeks later, I was invited to speak at an international conference for women in business. Standing backstage, I felt nervous. The audience was huge, filled with cameras, reporters, and young girls looking up with wide eyes. When my turn came, I walked to the microphone and paused for a breath. I once believed I was nothing without someone else's approval. I began. But the truth is, we all carry enough light to rebuild ourselves, no matter who tries to dim it. The crowd grew quiet, hanging on every word. I was told I'd disappear into thin air, I said, my voice trembling. But somehow, I ended up on a billboard in Times Square. So, if anyone here feels small tonight, remember, your story isn't over. The audience erupted in applause. Afterward, dozens of women came up to hug me. Some cried, others laughed. That night, as I sat in my hotel room, I got a text from Marco. "You did it. The world knows your name." I smiled. But then another message came from an unknown number. It read, "Thank you for setting me free, too." I stared at the screen. I knew it was Dylan. Months passed, and life became beautifully ordinary again. I launched new designs, traveled, and even started mentoring young artists. My name wasn't just a brand anymore. It was a reminder that healing was possible. One afternoon, I was invited to a charity gala downtown. I wore a silver dress, simple but elegant. The theme of the night was new beginnings. As I walked the red carpet, reporters called my name, lights flashing everywhere. Inside, I mingled with guests, smiling politely until someone tapped my shoulder. I turned and froze. It was Dylan's mother. She looked kind but weary. "Maya," she said softly, "he wanted me to give you this." She handed me a small envelope, then walked away before I could ask anything. I opened it carefully. Inside was a letter. Dylan's handwriting was messy but familiar. "I'm leaving the country. I need to start over far from here. Thank you for showing me who I used to be. I hope you find all the happiness I couldn't give you." I folded the letter gently and whispered, "I already have." Then I tucked it into my purse, stepped back into the crowd and smiled. Because this was closure. A year later, I stood once again in Times Square. Snow drifted softly through the air, the city alive with light and sound. Above me, a new billboard shimmered, this time showing women from around the world, all part of the new project Rise Global. My face wasn't alone anymore. It was surrounded by thousands of others who had turned pain into power. Marco joined me, grinning. From a broken heart to a global movement. Who would have thought? I laughed quietly. Maybe it had to happen this way. Maybe losing everything was the only way to find myself. We stood in silence, watching the billboard glow against the night sky. Across the street, a man with a suitcase stopped to look up at the same screen. For a second, I could have sworn it was Dylan. He stared, then smiled faintly before disappearing into the crowd. I didn't chase him. I didn't need to. Because my story wasn't about him anymore. It was about the woman who rose when no one believed she could. As the lights shimmered across my reflection, I whispered to myself, "I'm not nothing. I never was." And for the first time, I truly believed it.